Welcome to the Beyond the Event podcast, your home for exclusive tips, trends, and stories from local event professionals. So get ready and let's go beyond the event.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Beyond the Event podcast. And I hate to sound a little biased, but this is one that I've really been looking forward to. So it's a great honor to introduce Tara Franklin with now Holland Park Tents, and being in the same space, but different angles, different markets, different skill sets, I should say. Just truly an honor to be able to interview and talk and hear more about your story. I know bits and pieces of it, but I'm definitely excited to use this opportunity to go dive deep and learn about the whole story. So without further ado, Tara, you've got a huge background in this industry and event space, and would love to start with just a quick intro of how you got started into tents and how it led to Holland Park Tents today.
Okay, well, first I want to say thanks for having me, Jett. I'm really proud of you. I think this podcast is awesome and important, and I think it's awesome that you started it, and I love the variety of guests you're having. So thank you for having me on.
Yep.
So I got started in the event industry about 18 years ago. 10 of them have specifically been in tenting. And I think, I'm extremely passionate about this industry. So I love talking tents.
Yeah.
So when I started, I actually got married in 2004. And, this was a long time ago, before everyone was doing everything online. And my mom and I had a really hard time finding wedding invitations. And we started a business shortly after that. And we did custom wedding invitations, custom stationery. We had a cute little boutique shop in downtown Frederick. And we did that for 8 years. And I feel like it built a really good foundation for customer service, relationships, clients. And then, kids, life, I sold that business. I worked at a venue very briefly, a venue that was new, under construction. It wasn't open yet. And sadly, that venue never opened. But anyway, we'll save that story. But I met Davis Richardson from Sugar Plum Tents because we were going to buy a tent for that venue. And when I knew that venue really was never going to open, I spoke with Davis, and he's like, well, let me know if you ever need anything. And I said, well, if you hear of a venue opening, just let me know. And he called me 3 days later and he said, hey, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet Davis, but this is so him. He's like, hey, I got a job opening. It's the number 2 person in our office, but, let me know if you want to come in for an interview. So I was like, I'm a creative person. I don't really have any interest in tenting. But I love Davis. I respected him. So I was like, well, let me go see. Maybe I can pass this lead off to a friend or something. So I went and met with him, and I just was just taken by him, his passion, his experience, and the projects he was working on. It was exciting for me. So I started there. And like he said, I was the number 2 person in the office. So, at first he really was hesitant about passing me off to planners that he's worked with and built these relationships for so long. But I feel like over the years, I really broke him. I constantly was asking, let me go on site visits, let me go to the events. And I think it took a long time for him, a lot of trust. This was a man's industry. So it was very unheard of at that time for, a woman to go out on a site visit and measure for tents and produce an event. But eventually I broke him down, and I think he was happy with the results. So I was there for a while. Davis was getting older. He was kind of stepping back out of his role. He brought Drew on, who is my business partner now, as our director of operations. And very funny at first, Drew and I totally butted heads. I was like, oh, who's this guy that thinks he's going to come in here and tell me what to do? But right. I quickly learned to respect him. He's a very quiet man. I know you've met Drew before. Doesn't say much, but he's so smart, and he's such a hard worker. And I knew for me to, meet my goals at the time, I needed him. I needed his expertise. As he says, I'm the dreamer, he's the doer. So I think we balance each other out good. So sadly, Davis passed away in 2020. It was the height of COVID, as you know. And Drew and I were just really focused on, we had a staff of 20, 25 people, and we had events booked. I mean, our focus then in 2020 was we just have to keep this going. So 2021, people started getting vaccines, people started gathering again. And I mean, it just blew up. People were backlogged for events. So we had too many events, but we did really good. I mean, our last full year there, business profits increased 40%. I mean, we were just rolling. And then, we learned that Sugar Plum was going to sell. And, without getting into too many details, I just, at that point in my career, I just wasn't comfortable. I didn't, Sugar Plum was such a great family business, and we didn't know who they were selling to. There was just so many unknowns. So we decided, I talked to many planners who I consider my friends and that I trust. And, they were like, people will follow you no matter where you go, no matter what company you're with. So Drew and I decided to leave. We went with another tent company. And that was, I mean, they're huge. We probably worked for two of the biggest tent companies, in this area. And, that was great. And I learned that my clients did follow me. So we were there for a little over a year, and Drew was finally like, why don't we just do this for ourselves? Like, let's just go for it. And it's funny, when we were going to leave Sugar Plum, he asked me, and I was like, zero interest, don't want to own a business. We're too old. We're too much into this. But then, after that year and a half, he said, let's do this. And the next morning I was on the phone. Ryan Lacasse was my first call. I was like, Ryan, we're going to start this tent company. And everyone I told was so supportive. And I feel like if I didn't keep going and push so hard, Drew's more sensible. I'm more of a risk taker. I feel like he would have pumped the brakes, but I just kept rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. How, that's super interesting. And love the journey. You are in a very gifted position, and I'm sure that you understand that and have a lot of gratitude for that. To work with, you didn't just work with little pop-up companies. You're dealing with very, very high-end, jobs with lots of details. It's like, quote unquote, the big leagues, which is just very admirable. What were some of the changes or maybe challenges going from just an employee of a company to actually being in charge of? Did you have a different perspective shift, or kind of like, was there ever like an aha moment so far of, so this is what it's like to be in charge of everything?
Well, I will say, I do agree with you. And I feel like when people ask me, like, how did you start? How does it starting a business? How do you start a tent company? I feel like our situation is totally different because, unlike people that decide they want to get into this industry and start, we kind of are spoiled that we already came in with clients that, we already knew we were going to be able to continue to service. So I do feel very lucky and very grateful. But with that, I do feel, the weight and the pressure being in the level of, the clients we service, we understand their expectations, and it's very different than, somebody just having, a party, like a one-off party. So we definitely understand that, and it means a lot. And when we decided we were going to do this, I mean, customer service and quality of inventory by far, I mean, that's obviously we want to make money, but those two things, I mean, that's the most important thing. And I believe if you have the service, if you have the quality, the revenue will follow. So I don't know if I've had an aha moment yet. I feel so grateful. And it's funny. Like, I know this industry can be stressful, and I just feel like Drew and I we have a weight lifted off of us, and it's amazing being able to order the inventory we want and, make the calls we want. And we definitely still operate like a small family business, which is, I want to keep it that way.
Right. Yeah. And I've met Drew, and he, with you guys going pretty much from company to company to owning, he's been with you side by side, like a package deal pretty much. Has that ever been the case, like going from Sugar to Select of like it being a package deal? Like, would you have made that decision without him? Okay, yeah.
No, I couldn't do it without him. And I feel like, I mean, I'm pretty confident in my skill set, when I go to a site visit and I see things, but I just feel like Drew is so good with problem solving, creating custom solutions. Like, I need his brain to be able to kind of harness what my vision is. So I think we work together really well.
Yeah. And you made a great point. You didn't just start a tent, an event rental company, doing 20 by 20s or small backyard parties. Like, you went straight in and dove head first, which I don't know how many people can really understand how much, like how like either risk factor, like of devastate, like challenging that could be. Like you have to make it work. You have to, whatever. Like that's a big leap. So I even chatted you like months ago and was like, when I saw it, it felt like breaking news. I'm like, wait, Holland Park Tents, like what happened? And I was like, I was following the journey on Instagram, and it's just literally so beautiful to see somebody take that leap and go through with it. So kudos to you for all of that. 100%.
Thank you. I will say the biggest difference I feel like from somebody just starting out, what it costs to, buy a few 20 by 20s and some tables and chairs. And we kind of had to go into it on the opposite end, and we had to buy, full stock of navies and sailcloth, and we purchased a white garden tent and a black garden tent. So that part was a little scary, but we definitely have some good relationships. And I was able to, when we went to Matra in November, which is a tent show, if people aren't familiar, we know a lot of vendors, we know a lot of manufacturers. So I thought I knew going in, okay, this is who we're going to use. But then, people kind of were like, check out my pricing, call me. And I was like, oh, I don't want to hurt those relationships. But in the end, we kind of went with what we knew. Anchor, we love Anchor. We purchased all of our frame tents from them. And then Fred's. I love Fred's. I don't know if you buy from them, but we bought obviously the garden tents and all of our sailcloth from Fred's. So those are the two manufacturers we kind of decided on.
Yeah. And which are definitely industry leaders. Like we have a lot of Aztec and we have a lot of Anchor. That's usually our two that we have pretty much everything. Yeah, pretty much everything we have in stock is either one of the two. So
yeah, and I learned, I remember speaking with another tent owner, and he was like, you got to get your stuff from China. You can get a container. It's so much cheaper. And I said to him, I said, what am I going to do, on a Friday night if I have an issue? Like China's not going to send me parts. So I definitely need to keep those vendors that I know I have a relationship with that, will help us if we get into a jam.
And if there's anybody to talk partnership or relationship with, it would be you, with all the connections that I know you have in the industry. And there was another rental company for us, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago, and I got a call from Ryan actually and asked if I can help this person out, and I said sure, absolutely. Well, she had called me and was like, I need 4 rafters for Navi, and I said no problem, swing by, scoop them, whatever. She's like, well, send me the bill, send me the invoice. And I'm like, first off, we've worked together multiple times in the past. Like this is the least I can do to thank you in this position that you're in, that you need some help. And that's just how I've, structured the business, that I'm always down to help people. So like, I know in your position, like, and especially starting out, that's one advantage I could see happening is it's not like you went into it not knowing anybody, like you're the new kid at a new school. You already came in with some connections that, like even me and others that would be right there, especially cheering you on and supporting you. So yeah. And I love the designs. Like we don't have any structure. We don't have any, the garden tent or anything of that nature. So when you put these pictures online, like anybody that's listening that doesn't follow her, well, she's got 2 accounts. I would say your personal one and then the Holland Park Tents. You definitely need to, I'll leave the link in the description for you to follow Tara, because the pictures she puts, like it takes tenting to another level. Like, and I own a tent company and I'm giving you that praise. Like we've been at it for 15 years. So we're still babies, in the grand scheme of things. And we're working our way up to we have sailcloth, clear top now, but
yeah, you guys are doing great.
Yeah, we didn't have any of those luxuries, tent washer, you name it, years ago. So like we're on our journey and we love it. We love what we do, but seeing you from afar, it's like you have no choice but to cheer you on, because I love what you're doing. But yeah, so when it comes to the logistics, that's something I'd be interested to kind of shift gears and talk about, is like, what does it take to pull off these massive, I just saw the Virginia Tech one online, like something that large in scale, as it comes down to like maybe the team aspect and like the logistics behind it. Like, how do you take on such a big job like that?
So this one's cool. So we did hire a social media company to kind of handle that stuff. And I had a meeting with them yesterday, and they want to do like a by the numbers post from Virginia Tech. So actually writing it all out, it was really cool. There were 11 crew members. It was a 36-hour build, 22-hour teardown. I think I said it was 108,000 pounds of concrete block, 8 tractor trailers.
Oh, gosh.
That was a
Yeah.
beast. And that one was interesting. I looked it up. It was 91 days from the first client phone call till boots on the ground when we were actually starting the install. So that one was kind of a whirlwind. And in this market, sometimes people give you a year and sometimes you have to react very fast. So I think, knowing a lot of people, I think really helped us. We don't own, that much concrete block yet. I mean, we own block, but not enough for that tent. So we subbed it out from a local company, LNA Tents in New Jersey, who, they're kind of like family to us. Davis's brother from Sugar Plum owns LNA. So they helped us out with the structure, and they've just been wonderful to us. They kind of say, let's move this inventory to Maryland. So they've given us a lot of stuff, which has helped, because we had no intention. You're spending so much money on these tents. We had no intention of buying a structure this year, but I keep selling structures. I'm like, why can't I sell Navitrax?
Right.
But
right.
yeah, I mean, that was the Virginia Tech one was awesome. And you probably know this. I mean, one of the hardest parts I think of this whole industry are permits. And unfortunately, that one, we needed a building permit, an electrical permit, and the fire marshal permit. And so that was a little challenging in that small time frame, but I'm very happy we got that done. We passed. Best feeling on a job site when the inspectors come and pass you.
Yep. Yeah. And primarily though, I mean, yeah, that was definitely, I mean, the big commencement events and things like that, like there's definitely large tents involved in the space that you work with. But I would say just from afar, your specialty is the weddings, correct?
Yeah, it's funny. So we know our kind of niche, and that's the lane we definitely want to stay in. And that's, weddings, high-end weddings. But, I do like the corporate events. We don't do as many, but definitely in the off season, I'm happy to take a project like that on. But typically graduations, festivals, large concerts, we stay away from all of that. If we do get an inquiry, we usually just pass it on to one of the bigger companies, just because, we really want to grow, but have that small mindset. So we'll only take on one wedding a week. Certainly if it's a luxury wedding, sometimes our build is 2 weeks long. So in that case, we block out our whole calendar and we'll take any weddings in that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's so fascinating to me, because like that, to even wrap my head around like a job that takes that long to build. I mean, you're talking the flooring and just, I mean, all of it, like the whole 9 yards is, it's just that next level of work that is involved. When I toured Sugar Plum back when we met, I found something extremely profound, was that back at Sugar Plum, like they don't, maybe a small inventory, but like tables, chairs, stuff like that, like wasn't a part of the inventory. Now with Holland Park Tents, that's still kind of the motto? You're staying on the tent?
We don't do any of that. We do flooring, obviously tenting. The creative part of me loves lighting. So we're adding a lot of different chandeliers and specialty lighting. And then I'm obsessed with fabric. So we do, I learned at Sugar Plum, we used to order our leg drapes from Baytex and wash them in our washer. And they just weren't, it wasn't the level our clients were expecting when we rolled out to a job site. So I learned very quickly that we could just order the yardage, and I personally can pleat it and staple and make the leg drape. So we're planning on doing a lot of custom draping. We can do a full fabric liner, wall drape, swagging.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that custom, is that kind of one of the specialties that you can offer, is like that custom feel? So if a bride walks in and it's like, I have this, I've never seen it done before, but I have this idea, you can bring that vision to life with drapery and all the extensions to the tent itself.
Yeah, and it's interesting. A lot of our, like very high budget planners that bring us on, they hire a lighting company. They'll hire a decor company that'll do the draping. But there is that next level of budget where they don't have it in the budget to bring all of these vendors. So I feel like one of our specialties is, rather than have a lighting company, have a decor company, we can handle all of that for you.
Yeah. Which I think is valuable, because, there's a lot of other vendors that might have the tables or the chairs, or it might not be as hard of a thing to acquire for an event, but like being able to really deliver on the lighting, that's not something you just guess, like I know from our experience, we get some lighting requests and some custom requests, I should say, but like to the scale and like ability to execute on that, like that's not really our wheelhouse. We're definitely in more of the mid-grade level of like size of events and details of events. But we take on, you know, like I said, clear top and sailcloth and stuff. But as far as decor and stuff, we're the type of company that would sub that out to, you know, either a floral company to put the greenery in and things like that. So, but yeah, shifting gears to the inventory. I know you bought a lot of anchor and sticking with kind of what you know, but then also kind of hinting around it. Some other, you know, when you went up to Metro and stuff, but is there any shift? I like talking about trends on the podcast in the tenting space or maybe just in the event space in general. Are there any, like what's still in from your perspective? Where's the market going? Are the garden tents going to pop like to be the new norm? Like, where do you think the trend of our industry is going?
Yeah, so the garden tents are funny. The very first garden tent I ever saw, I feel like it was the first in the country, was Fred's garden tent. It was green. Then it was IFAI trade show, but now it's called ATA. But I was down there in Daytona and Davis wasn't there that year, but I saw it and called him immediately. And I said, Davis, we have to buy this. And he's like, oh, we're not going to rent that. And I'm like, I knew it. I saw it and I'm like, and I sent a picture to some of my planners and they were going nuts. They're like, you have to buy this. So I convinced Davis to buy it. COVID happened. We didn't rent it for like 2 years, but once it started renting, I mean, it just took off. Companies were calling us, you know, from other areas saying, could we sub-rent that? You know, my client wants that. Then eventually we added the black garden tent. So to answer your question, yes, I think the garden tents are definitely here to stay. They're very difficult to put up. It's not, you know, it's not like popping up like a 20 by 40. So it's definitely, the price is high. So when somebody calls me to get a quote for that, you know, I definitely let them know. I mean, some of them, the newer garden tents, they're making with structure profiles, structure beams. So a lot of them, you need heavy equipment lifts to actually install them, which drives the price point up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think they're here to stay. The white one came to me because it's a planner that I've worked with. We did a wedding at this property for her, for a family member. And now another family member is getting married. And she was like, what if we did it in white? And I was like, never seen that, which gets me excited. So I called Fred. I was like, would you be able to do this in white? And, you know, he was all in. He got some renderings done. We showed the client. They loved them. So we're very excited to get that in and kind of be the first people that'll have that color.
That's super exciting. Yeah. You work with a lot of venues too, not just event planners, without making it all with good intent here. Is there any venue that you just absolutely die for and love working at? Like what's some of your favorite places that you've done tents at?
Oh, I can't choose. It's interesting though. I will tell you that 100% of our business is referrals. And I would say 90% of that come from planners and caterers, not exactly the venues, just because, you know, the planners work at such a wide range of venues. I will say though, we booked a wedding at the Omni Homestead Resort in Hot Springs, Virginia. I'm very excited about that one. It's a little out of our normal area, but that's in August. So we're very happy to go down there and put up the black garden tent.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. In terms of distance, I don't even know, to be honest. You're closer to the DC side, right? Like you're more than Baltimore. Like you're down.
Yeah, it's funny. We are located in Frederick, the same with Sugar Plum and Select, but we do no business in Frederick, which I'd love to change that, but it's just different. It's different territory. Mm-hmm. So the majority of our work is DC, Northern Virginia. We do a lot out in Middleburg, that area, and the Eastern Shore of Maryland. We do a lot in St. Michael's, a lot in Annapolis. But we will travel. We try not to take on too many high-end luxury events out of our market, but we do a few a year. I have a planner I'm working with that has a wedding in Maine next year. So we're going to go up to Maine. I have one that we quoted in the Hamptons. So I'm very excited about that. Wow. So we can't travel all the time, but we will travel a few times a year.
Yeah, I was curious, and I guess you have the ability to do so if you're really giving the attention to detail. Would you say one luxury wedding per weekend or whatever per week? If you're traveling, I feel like that definitely. It's nice that you're not trying to jam too much on your plate at once, and now you're cheating one client over the other because you're spread
Learn
too
that the
people
hard
thin.
way.
Like,
Yes.
yeah.
We had a year at Sugar Plum after COVID, and people had already booked and had deposits, and then they rescheduled their dates, and it just we might have had 1 week where we had 12 weddings. I mean, it's insane. I never want to go back there again. But I did learn something very valuable as a company. You kind of touched on it earlier, is I don't look at people as competitors. Like you need that group. So we were subrenting at that time at Sugar Plum. We subrented from Skyline. We subrented from Select. I mean, anyone that could help us, and you need that. So I'm very happy to help a company. And I try to do that too. So I got a request for a small tent for Cherry Blossom Festival, and we were already way overbooked. So I called my friend Russ from AAA Party Rental. We're on the board of ARA together. And, I was able to pass that lead off to him. So that always feels good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Usually a lot of times for me, it'll depend on the request of what the client's asking, that it could be that we have it, but we're unavailable, or we don't even have it or carry it. And then I kind of look at the map based on where their event is. And I will say, and somebody mentioned this, I heard this at an ARA event. It might've even been in Orlando a couple of years ago, that something unique about the events industry, and who knows, maybe in plumbing and drywall and electrical work, like maybe people have like really close knit relationships. But I will say, I heard this down in Orlando, and it still holds truth to this day, that like it's something unique about the event space, that like when you have those connections, it's like having best friends. It's like, yeah, the competition in this space looks so much different than competition in food or travel or anything
Totally
like that.
agree. And I almost feel like it's like people, when I tell people I work in tents, we put up tents, I think they don't really understand what we do. And no matter if you're, doing 20 by 20, what scale you're on, like, I just feel like we understand each other in this industry. And that's why I love going to the tent shows. We go to all 3 each year. And it is, they're your people, you love them, and they understand what you go through.
Yeah. I mean, just think if a photographer was like, hey, my camera just broke, can I borrow yours for the weekend? Like, it's a different level of respect of just like, yeah, I know what position you're in. I know what it's like to, have a pole either break or a fitting crack or whatever, and you need something in a rush. Like it happens. So yeah, it's a beautiful
when you have a
industry
full
to be a
schedule
part
and
of.
you have 3 guys that don't show up that day. I mean, yeah, we definitely, it's not anyone could just go put a tent up. It's a skill set. So it's definitely a very unique industry.
Yep. Quick question on the name. I was actually curious about that. Holland Park, is that like an area, or is there meaning? How did you come with Holland Park Tents?
So I had a small focus group of planners. The name was so hard. We went through so many iterations of the name and the logo. And then one of the planners was finally like, well, what street do you live on? And I was like, Holland Park Lane. And she was like, I love it. So I actually Googled it, and Holland Park is an affluent neighborhood in London. And I was like, okay, I like this. This is good.
Yeah.
So we went with it, but the name was really hard.
Yeah. Well, I think you picked a good one, because I believe like with a brand or with a name, like you bring meaning to it. Like, what is the brand meant for? And the representation, like with you representing the name Holland Park Tents. I mean, when did you open? Was it fall of last year? Like, when did you actually go on your own?
That's funny. So we started, the business plan. We kind of started July, August of last year with our plan of not putting tents up until 2025. And then we, my normal caterers and planners, people were having holiday parties, and they're like, we really need you to do this. So we subbed all of our equipment. I think we had 6 or 8 jobs maybe in 2024. Subbed the equipment and labor until now we have all of our own inventory. We have a staff, but yeah, so I would say October, we were putting our first tents up.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was going to say from fallish timeline to now, like I'm already, it's almost feels like second nature now. Like if it's a smaller company or somebody you're not aware of, like, all the people in the industry. I know a good amount of people in this industry, and like we all know each other. So it's like, we're here to help each other. But then you get the new kid on the block. It's like, who's this person? But for you to come in, Holland Park Tents already just kind of fits like in the wheelhouse of the tenting space in the state and in this area. So,
and I think it's important too that the clients that I have that I brought over, I mean, like, I don't feel like we started this and we're taking from our competition or, or from our friends, from our other vendors. I feel like these are clients that, we would have had anyway, whether I was at Sugar Plum or I was at Select. So I feel like, we're in our like small group of planners and caterers that we work with, and, we're not kind of taking anything else.
Yeah. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes or cause any like, heated conversation, but like I was very curious and wanted to ask, if you don't have to answer, but like if you don't mind, like how was the transition to kind of, was it accepting? Was it like, oh, Tara, we agree with you, or was there kind of any bad blood on the exit?
I think Select was pretty happy. I mean, when I went to Select, I told them, this is my lane, luxury weddings, this is what we do. And Select is such a good company. They're so big, and they're nationwide. And I think they understood what I was trying to do. So I feel like they were very supportive of me kind of going out on this venture, which was fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. And that's important for sure. With coworkers and maybe the past team going from Sugar to Select, do you still stay in touch with people that you used to work with? Like, how's the connections back, going back down the timeline?
I do. It's so funny. I never lost touch with the people at Sugar Plum. I mean, that leaving Sugar Plum was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, like not just career wise.
Right.
That was family. So still stay in touch with people over there. Select, I was there for a shorter amount of time, but I still stay in touch with some of the people over there, which is really great. And it's just nice. It's nice to check in. It's funny. We bought our inventory from Anchor, and I keep, DC, it's not, you've got these small spaces. So everybody needs a 14 wide, and like nobody has 14 wides, and we don't do the Fiesta frame. We want Navy light. So, I've been talking to Sugar Plum. They've been helping us out with some inventory issues, but we ended up just having to order a 14 wide from Anchor.
Yeah. Oh, I've learned that even we used to be in Hampstead and then coming down to the Reisterstown Owings Mills area. And that's even been a shift. Like you'll get these row homes or you get these smaller, very small scale events. And it's like the dimensions, our smallest tent is still, I've never gone in for like 10 wide or 9 or 12 or whatever. It's a 20 by 20. So we don't really do like walkway tents or anything like that. So I'm not going to lie. It's one of the things that we went with the tent washer, we went with the sailcloth and the clear top. We're still trying. We're like, that's the level we're at, like still trying to build out that inventory. And then when we hit a point where it's like, okay, well, what else can we add? Our strategy was like, then we'll go get those small tents. Cause we sub out the small tents if we need them. But doing these like,
that's what I would recommend. I mean, and that's what our plan was going to be. But then we got exclusive. We're almost closing the deal with exclusive at a venue, and it's a 14 wide that'll go up often. And, it's a high quality venue. So we knew we couldn't do a Fiesta frame. So I think that's why we finally bit the bullet, even though we have all this inventory we're paying for. We're like, let's just add another 35,000.
Right. Yeah. And the appreciation, not only in the cost, but like you said before, the labor in what we do. That's one of I don't do every install here, but I do remember back when I was more frequent on a lot of installs, one of my favorite things being out there was when people really, you could see it on their face, like you're there for a while and it's like, wow, I'm sitting here thinking this is expensive and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, now I understand, like you have to see it to believe it. And a lot of times it's like when you see that thing come to life and you see the tent go in the air, that's one of my favorite feelings about it.
Totally agree. I love being on site. And I agree with the cost. I think people don't understand. They're like, oh, you're just popping up a tent. It's like, well, actually, that's not exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
A lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's a lot involved.
Yeah.
But education is really important to me. And that's another reason I love posting a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I think it's important for people to see that, they don't just see the pretty things once the tent is filled, but they see, what actually is involved in getting to that point.
Now, I know that you're definitely more on the high end scale with, I would say, majority of your work is, if I had a graduation party for 50 people, are you carrying small tents or are you just more on the bigger side?
No, I mean, because we have these, kind of weird sizes, particularly downtown in DC, we have 14 wide, 16 wides. We ended up for our, I hate when someone has a 10 wide space, like I don't want to put up a marquee. So we ended up buying the Vixen, which is the very small structure profile from Anchor. So we bought that in a 3 meter and 6 meter. So we could do 10, essentially it's 10 wide and 20 wides, but it's the pipe is just beautiful. So we have that for some smaller jobs.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wasn't sure if that would be in your wheelhouse or clientele, because hopefully, as this podcast grows and getting more listeners involved, I mean, even if it's not when this podcast gets released, but like maybe 2 months from now, someone pops in and listens to this, and they can use this moment to kind of be like, hey, Tara's awesome. That's somebody I want to connect with and have an event.
And we definitely would not, I would entertain a small job. I mean, we're not like, we'll only do big stuff, but it's really just what the schedule dictates. And, typically when you have these really large weddings, they are booking out a year in advance. So normally May and June are booked pretty fast. So then, when the graduation parties call, sadly, we don't have room in our schedule for it.
Right. Yeah. So walk me through, if I was a potential client, walk me through kind of maybe your secret sauce or process. Like if I call Holland Park Tents, am I going to you? Like what's your team look like in terms of how do you go from, hey, I'm interested in having an event to the whole shebang?
So it is just me right now. I'm answering the phone. So I will be your first, the first point of contact. And, I like to hear a lot about the event. Not just, some people call and they know what size they need, but sometimes they don't know all the other things they need. So we'll start at the beginning. Obviously, how many guests are you having dancing? Do you need room for a stage, or are you doing a DJ? So we try to get an understanding of what's going in the tent. And then I push for a site visit. It's important. I feel like getting out there and seeing the site, you're not only building that rapport with the client, but you probably get this too. Like people are like, our backyard is totally flat. And then you get out there and you're just like, this is a cliff. Like, no, it's not,
yes.
Not totally flat. We can't put a tent on this. So I push for the site visit. We don't charge for site visits, but I think it's important. I don't know how people can send a contract out without seeing the site. So push for the site visit, hopefully attend the site visit. I really want to get an understanding there of, okay, where will guests arrive? How will the guests walk to the space? What is the ground? What is the surface like under that space? How is the lighting at night when they have to leave? Where will catering cook out of? Where are the restrooms? Are there pathways that lead to this? So I really want to get a whole understanding of it. Then we come back. A lot of times Drew and I will just kind of meet, go over the notes. I always put it into a diagram before I send a quote. I think that's important. I recently had a planner call. She was like, oh, I got a quote from another company, but I'd love to work with you. So I was like, well, I'll price it. So she gave me the specs. I sent her the quote with the diagram, and she was like, oh, you were like double. And I was like, well, what size tent did they quote you? And she told me the tent size. And I said to her, I said, please, you don't have to go with us, but that tent, that is the wrong tent size. So I did a diagram with the size the other company proposed, and I showed her. I was just like, if you want to work with them, that's fine, but please go back to them and tell them you want to quote for this tent size. So in the end, we got it. But
right.
I think the diagram is so important because I feel like, the clients have no idea why you're proposing this size. So I do think they need to see that. And then, a lot of times, after we get into contract, depending on the level, if they have a decor company, we always try to reach out to them ourselves so we can kind of figure. The worst thing is getting on site, the day you've been there 6 days putting the tent up, and the decor company comes out and says, oh, I thought there was going to be a leg here, or I thought I'd be able to attach to this. So we try to be proactive there, especially if the generator is needed. We try to contact all of the vendors to get their lighting requirements, so we make sure we have the right size generator.
And
then, we do, typically the planners will do a vendor walkthrough. So we're all kind of on the site closer to the event as it leads up. But I feel like the process, we just try to, think one step ahead. So we're trying to, avoid issues once we do get on site.
Yeah. How is it with working with a lot of vendors, especially like even just maybe table and chair delivery, like farmhouse tables take up space, and depending on the type of chair, whether they're stackable or not, is going to be taking up space, and they can't with logistics. Like if we're bringing crossbacks, I have a crossback in my office that I'm looking at right now. Like if we're bringing crossbacks and tables or whatever, and we're doing the tent, like we'll set the tent up and bring the rentals in, and we have to time that with ourselves, dance floor, etc. But when it comes to, if you're not carrying this inventory, I'm curious is it a huge challenge working with other vendors to kind of schedule out the delivery and stuff? Is that one of the big challenges?
No, because I do feel like you learn a lot having done this a long time. So when we set an install date, we always work backwards, and we will ask the planner or the client what day are your tables and chairs being delivered. So we work backwards. What day are florals coming? So we set our start date based on when our tent needs to be finished by, so the other vendors could get in.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. Something I'm curious, that's kind of how I just met with, you probably know her. Do you know Susie Childs from Select?
Yes. Oh, she's been
Yeah,
there forever. She's amazing.
Yep. So Rachel, my sales manager, and I went and visited Select in the Hunt Valley location and did kind of like a walkthrough tour.
Their showrooms are so beautiful. I mean, Select just nailed it when they kind of redesigned their studio spaces.
Oh, unbelievable. So we met Susie on at their office there and kind of got introduced to the team and did a walkthrough, and I found it extremely fascinating. And of course, at their scale, it's a whole different ballgame. That they will have like a whole tenting division and rental furnishing and linens or something. Like it's almost like two companies into one. And I found that so fascinating.
It's true, but I feel like that's why they're able to be so successful at it, because it really is two totally different things. So, your sales staff needs to be trained in a different way. Your delivery drivers have to be trained in a different way. Like, a guy putting up tents might not necessarily know, how to set up the tables and chairs and what size linens go on what tables.
Yeah. So that's what was funny, because that's how it got brought up. We're just sitting there talking, and I think I said something along the lines of like, oh, well, I know you guys have these like higher end tents that we don't carry or whatever. And if we ever get a request, of course, depending on the location, we want to kind of separate our referrals and it depends on the area and who it is. And I'm like, we'd love to send you the tents that we don't have or whatever. And she looks at us and she's like, oh, well, I don't work with tents. I'm in the rental furnishing space. And I was like, oh, so I'm like, hold on. So you don't even know like this, that, and the other. And she's like, oh, I don't work. I mean, she knows the obvious, but like, she couldn't take you through the whole tenting process. And I'm like, that is absolutely fascinating. So
it's
much
different.
respect.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on. We're running a bit out of time here, but I really appreciate you taking the time today, especially on a Friday. And I'm really excited to release this one. Is there anything you would say, put yourself maybe in either the business side or the client side? Is there anything that you can, maybe give advice on, whether it's working with other vendors or if you're in the client seat of, the best tips and tricks that you've learned over the year for planning purposes? I mean, what's one big thing you can go out with?
I mean, I guess I've always learned people hire people they like, that they want to work with. I always try to tell clients, like, don't just automatically go with the cheapest bid. Like, there's a reason it's the cheapest bid. Ask questions. Ask, what type of tent am I getting? Who's the manufacturer? How long have you owned these tent tops? I mean, there's a reason things are priced the way they are. And I feel like no matter what your budget is, if you're hosting an event, particularly your home, you want it to be nice as you can for your budget. So you just want to make sure that your company understands that, it doesn't matter how small you are, but do you wash your tent tops? Like, you have a tent washer, it's amazing. So, every job you go on, your tops are going to be, in great condition.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's definitely been game changing for us. The tent washer changed the whole game, and I can't even, it's like you have to start from somewhere, but it's like I don't even have memory of like, how did we live without this, in the past? So yeah, it's definitely been game changing for us. So, well, I hope to stay connected with you. We're in March right now. So, the busy season is upon us soon. And
see you in July.
Would love to stay connected with you, and can't wait to, again, see kind of your journey continue to unfold, because it's just beginning a whole new journey for you. So I'm very excited to keep following along, and hopefully everybody listening right now, like I said, click the link in the description to go follow Holland Park Tents on Instagram. And if a client wants to reach out, is Instagram the best place, or website? How can people?
Yeah, so our website, I have my cell phone number on our website, my email. So website, you can reach out from there, or we get a lot of DMs on Instagram, and that's great too.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Tara. I really appreciate all your time today.
Thanks, Jett.